before Akari, I had to find what my thing was. And a big part of, running a successful business is you got to hire at some point. Yeah, they were all sorts of people. There were 40 or 50-year-olds asking a 16-year-old, 17-year-old kid, how can I make extra income? Just because I was younger. And he goes like, where's all this money coming from?
Welcome to Agency After Hours, the podcast where we talk with founders and ask them the questions nobody else asks. I'm your host, Max. Today, we're talking to Tre Alvarado, the founder of Akari Social. At 16, Tre made $1,000 in 4 months running a paid community. 8 years later, he's now running his own agency, building newsletters and email systems for founders. This is a conversation about the gap between being a teenage hustler on the internet and becoming a real founder. We talk about the failures, the doubts, and what you learn when the glamour of side hustle becomes the responsibility of running a business. Tre, welcome. Tre, I want to start with a story I found online. You made roughly $21,000 at 16 from a paid community. And I also saw a statement of when you showed this number to your dad, he almost thought you did something illegal. I want to know the actual moment behind this, where were you sitting? What did you actually tell him? And what was his first reaction?
Yeah, so it was, when was this? This was a little bit before COVID. I was sitting in the kitchen. I believe I was just working on the business at the time. And he actually gave me a call on the phone as he kind of kept an eye on my bank account. And just because I was younger. And he goes like, where's all this money coming from? So he thought I was doing something very illegal. He said some other things I won't get into, but he was like, what are you doing online? And that's when I kind of told him, I'm running this business. I basically teach people how to resell various products, things like graphics cards, PS5s, concert tickets. It's a very lucrative business if you don't know reselling. And I was pretty damn good at it at a young age, and people wanted to learn from me. So they would pay me a monthly subscription, and they'd just pay me on a monthly fee to learn from me.
And who were the customers purchasing this type of community?
Yeah, they were all sorts of people. There were 40 or 50-year-olds asking a 16-year-old, 17-year-old kid, how can I make extra income? There were kids my age. There were teenagers, people in their 30s. I mean, all over. People obviously love making money and have a passion for kind of side hustles and side gigs. And so they're like, let's give it a go. I think it was kind of all over the place, honestly.
And how did you monetize the channel in the first place?
The community itself?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was one of the first users on WAP, if you've heard of WAP.
Oh,
yeah. So I was one of the beta testers on that platform. Now it's something completely that's just exploded. But I was one of the first communities they tested with. And that's the platform that I use to monetize. Yeah.
When you started making the money, do you ever feel like at 16 years of age, it's a good amount of money? We can't deny it, right? Most of the people are either in school or sometimes working part-time jobs at the weekend. Do you ever feel hey, this is over my head? Or do you just feel this was the game I was paying and it was just worth it?
Yeah, I think honestly, kind of going to the launch days of when I was launching the community, I think I had this limiting belief of I don't think people will buy from me. And I mean, that turned out to be the furthest thing from the truth. I mean, people were buying membership and I wasn't even there. I was making money sitting in my classroom. And I just kind of realized in that moment, I think it was in high school at the time, that this is on complete autopilot. I'm not even there. And people are purchasing and I'm making $200-$300 in a day from a community. I could not wrap my head around that. So I think I broke a ton of limiting beliefs. And obviously, you change lives in the process as well, teaching people some sort of skill and then having them being able to make money from it. It was, yeah, it definitely like filled me up.
Most early projects or like communities like this, eventually like they break, something happens, it starts getting inactive. Did you ever realize like, okay, this is not going to last, or was there any feelings like similar to that?
Yeah, because I was so young, I didn't have a ton of experience in the corporate world or anything. And a big part of, running a successful business is you got to hire at some point. So that was my mistake. And that was kind of when I've made the realization of how important hiring was. I hired someone, they didn't do an effective job. I was burning money, paying them, and they honestly just caused me more problems. Part of that, most of that is on me. I wasn't able to train them properly, but honestly, it was due to that. And it was that reason I failed. The business completely failed because I made a poor hire.
And just out of curiosity, what was the hiring doing on like a daily basis? Just managing the community?
Essentially, it was just, it was community management. And then it was also searching for deals and flips, ways to make money. So a couple of different things. Yeah.
And then what made you kind of pivot out of the reselling? I mean, I know you're kind of still in it, but like to an extent you decide, okay, I'm not going to pursue this, or how did that work out?
I started going to college, and so I think part of me was like, I don't think I have time to manage both school and community, and like a social life. So honestly, it had to do with that. I kind of chose the social aspect of things because I think at the time that's what I lacked, probably skill wise, was my people skills. And so I kind of just stopped and kind of phased out of it. I still resold on the side. I always had some sort of side hustle going. And then I also kind of moved to like more so community management. I was hired by other servers because they saw mine and what I did. And so they were interested in what I had to offer. And they wanted to, some of them paid me to kind of work with them instead of, running my own community.
Looking back at like 16-year-old Trey, like making money online, it was still a very good amount of money. What's the one skill you learned then that you still use every day in your now business life?
I think just being proactive is probably the best skill I learned from a young age. If you don't move and if you don't take action, you're not going to make, you get in what you put out ultimately. So if you're half-assing reselling, like that's on you. If you're half-assing the community stuff, the content side of things, like that's on you. You're going to get half-assed results. So I think just being super proactive when it comes to seeing something, in a reselling group, seeing something in a community I'm in, like take action on it, because even if you fail, like you're failing forward and you learn from it. And time and time again, like it was just be as proactive as possible. Just go, 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 go. You'll fail, that's fine, but just fail forward. And by far, probably the biggest takeaway I had and skill I still use today.
Between making 21K as a 16-year-old to now having, of course, Akari Social, which is, is a newsletter network, or kind of you writing newsletters for founders. There has been a long period of time since you having the community, and of course, you now having your own business. What happened during the time of, hey, I was 16, I was making the community, and now you have your own kind of newsletters and just walk me through the time period.
The time period between the community and then now the agency, like kind of what I did. Yeah, I spent a lot of time. Obviously, I was in school. I did a lot of community management for other communities as well, and then a lot of them started asking me for help with their emails. It's a pretty big. Some of these communities operate at like 30 to 40% monthly recurring revenue from emails if they're done correctly. So then opportunities within the email space started popping up. Opportunities with one-on-one coaching started popping up. opportunities running people's socials. So on X, on Instagram, on YouTube, they kind of wanted me to take head point on that. So I started doing a ton of that. And over time, it kind of, I just started building a ton of these different skills without really fully knowing it. And then that kind of went on pause and I started freelancing actually on Upwork and landed random gigs in the e-commerce space for a little bit, learned how to do email marketing, like real email marketing strategy, you know, holiday launches, etc., seasonal items. And then it kind of took me to Maker School, which is kind of where I'm at now, honestly. That kind of took up a good amount of time. And then Maker School is kind of the automation skill that I've been really wanting to learn and get a hand of, as it really kind of correlates to newsletter writing. Because if I can automate my newsletter writing or the research aspect of things or client onboarding, like it saves me a ton of time. Plus, I can do it for other people if I ever need. So that's honestly kind of been the journey since the reselling to now.
At some point, obviously there's a clear difference of helping other writing colleagues or like writing newsletters for like communities.
Yeah.
But you have also now decided, okay, I'm going to do this long term. This is my thing. This is like, hey, I want to do this forever. There's so many other things you can do. You can do drop shipping. You can do like a proper e-commerce brand. You can do the whole AI automation like space. Why did you decide to go with, okay, I want to do newsletters for a long period of time,
Yeah.
like just from now? And was there any like specific scenario? Okay, I have now decided I want to keep doing newsletters for a very long time. And how come and when did that happen?
Yeah. So I don't know why. I was just obsessed with like reading emails when I was younger. I don't know why. I loved reading emails. For whatever reason, I always looked at how persuasively someone wrote. I liked the strategy behind. Like to me, writing emails is kind of similar to a sales call. Like if you've ever seen someone who's good at sales, there's they just think differently. I can look at copy or an email and say like, oh, that guy's a good writer. And so over time, I think I obviously obsessed over emails, but then I started seeing founders write newsletters. For example, Nick. Nick has written a couple of blogs and posts and retrospectives, and I would read them and I was honestly sold. Like if he had provided a $2,500 a month community, I think I might have joined because it shows a different side of the founder. It's almost like a vlog style, or you kind of get to see their thinking process, their thought process with these high level thinkers. And I'm just naturally a very curious person, so I just love reading them. And I honestly think it was Nick's newsletter that made me realize like there's something here with email newsletters for sure. Because I'm the one, I don't buy products online, but I took action on a newsletter from Nick. So I'd probably say that was the pivoting moment. And that was, what was that? Like a year ago, maybe a couple months ago, honestly. But that's when it really clicked was Nick's newsletter or blog.
And for people who don't know, Nick is, of course, a YouTuber. He does AI automation, change workflows, and so on for a living. And now that you have decided, okay, I'm going to do this for a long-term period, what was your first experience with the client? First client, how did you find them? What was the situation? Like, did you actually deliver for them? Did you feel nervous? Tell me the experience of the first client.
Yeah, so one of my first clients, I still work with him today. It was his name was Adrian, and he had around 300K on Instagram. He's got had another 20, 30K on YouTube. I pitched him just a voice memo on Instagram, and he got back to me and he's like, I'm very interested in having a newsletter. Tell me more. Book a call, take the payment. I was very nervous on that sales call just because I've obviously never done it before. And he's like, all right, like kind of what are next steps? And I really didn't have any sort of onboarding process or I didn't really think it through. So it was kind of just a learn as I go. I had a rough idea of what I wanted, but I really had no idea as to like how I would execute fully. So it was, yeah, I mean, I was definitely nervous, and I just kind of had to figure it out and piece it together. Like, I think in terms of like how to execute, I think it's like, what would I want in their shoes? You know, what gets me the biggest return? What would I be happy with? And I think I just kind of thought of that the entire time, and it honestly just worked itself out, you know. And he was super open to like giving me criticism. I made it very clear, like, I want you to criticize my work, and tell me what sucks, because you tell me what sucks, I'll fix it, you know? And so I think I was just very open to that, which made the entire process just much smoother. And then also the client relationship. Like, while I'm not a huge agency, I'm one person. So that's kind of that's my leverage, right? I get to bust my ass for one person. And I think the client seeing that, I think, puts me in a very unique position. And honestly, it's the reason I've kept him for so long too. Yeah.
I definitely think it's worth talking about. Like, you have had the same clients since you started, which
Mhm.
is something that showcases your experience and like how you handle the client. But tell me about, like, I assume there's a lot of people wanting to start their own agency or start their own, like, what were you most insecure about? Were you scared of anything? Was it pricing? Was it the results? Was there anything you felt, okay, I assume it was a lot of things, but anything specific you had a hard time when starting, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah. I think there's two that come to mind. The first one I'll give you a story is like a sales. Especially when I'm not exactly sure how to execute something, or I'm not exactly sure how to do something, sales calls can get a little iffy for me. So I remember taking a sales call. Typically, for context, people just came to me. I didn't have to sell myself. I didn't have to hop in a call. People saw my work and they said, like, I want to hire you. Like, here's the money. Like, send me the Stripe invoice. But now, it kind of was an Upwork gig I had. I needed to hop on a client call and like pitch what I was doing for this e-commerce brand. And I remember they asked me, like, how would you kind of execute this, holiday email plan? I remember, I mean, I was pretty young, but I just closed the laptop. I had no idea, or I think I left the call or something, because I had no idea how to answer the I guess it's a question, but it's an objection. Like, how are you going to do this? And I didn't know how to handle it. So I just left the call and said my power went out. And like, that was an experience where I was like, I don't know how to do this. Like, we got to figure this out. So I think that was a funny experience. That was one problem I didn't know how to solve, was the sales. The second was pricing. And I think I'm still figuring this out. It's kind of comes from the same like limiting belief of like, one, how do I execute? But two, now it's more so like, how do I deliver my clients an ROI? How do I justify them paying me 5-10 grand for a project if they don't make that back? Business owners, just, I'm one myself. Like, if I hire somebody, like, you better do your best to get me an ROI, right? So, pricing was another big problem for me, and I'm figuring it out now. I just closed like 4K client, and it's like, it feels so much more normal now. Like, it's crazy I wasn't pitching 4, 5, 6K minimum at the minimum for these projects that I was working on. Yeah.
The most important question I have now:
Yeah.
how would you start a newsletter during the holiday season for e-commerce brand?
Yeah, like a email campaign or like a newsletter.
Like you
Email.
just had on the call that you left.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was uncertain about sending volume. Like, how many emails should I be sending? So that's kind of where my expertise comes in. It's like, okay, well, you got to segment your audience. There's guys that open every email. There's guys that don't open every email, and there's people that never open emails. So it honestly doesn't matter too much. I mean, I think the offer is important, obviously, but it's all about sending cadence within the ecom space. Like, you have to just hammer the inbox of people that are opening emails and just give them what they want. If they're not opening, that's for a reason, So as far as execution, it's all about being able to segment properly and set up proper flows. because otherwise you're going to, I mean, you do cold email campaigns. Like if you're sending to people that don't want it or poor quality leads, like you're going to burn your deliverability. You're not going to book appointments. It's going to be a waste of time and money. So you have to be super careful as to who you send to. That's honestly it. Send to the right people and send at a high volume and send obviously what they want. Like you've got to think what the customer wants. And I mean, that's it. Like there's no secret sauce to it. Yeah.
I prepared you like a scenario here. I want to walk you through. So you probably have had this question happen a couple of times before, but imagine this. There is a creator with 100K followers on Instagram, but they have no list.
Yeah.
They're addicted, of course, to like the vanity metric. How do you convince someone that, let's say, a list of 10,000 email subscribers is more valuable than their 100K followers? Do some people just not get, okay, email lists are so important if you are a founder with an audience?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a pretty common question. Just to kind of give you a rule of thumb, so there's newsletters out there that for every email subscriber that typically pays them $1. Like a good email system, a good newsletter, you should be able to get $1 per subscriber. So you can kind of there's a ton of different things you can do with email. You could sell that list for, I mean, some people will pay $2 to $4 per subscriber. So that's one, on a list of 10,000 people at $2 to $4 per subscriber. I mean, that's a pretty damn good payout. So that's one way. But the other kind of way I think about email is like something like TikTok got taken down, right? And people lost their followings. They lost tons of income. I mean, like people are making full on livings on there. Even the people dancing, like Charlie D'Amelio and all those people, like they lost a huge portion of their revenue. Had they had some sort of newsletter or something of the sort where they could then push like, hey, I'm moving to Instagram, or hey, here's some digital products. I mean, it's not uncommon for some of these founders to operate at, again, 30 to 40% monthly recurring revenue, all coming from email. And the moment I started working and actually sending emails myself, that was when I realized, like, holy shit, like there's a huge, huge opportunity in the email space without a doubt. Yeah. And then I guess that was the main question, is like kind of how do you think of newsletters, if I remember correctly?
Yeah. There are some people who have email lists, but still not succeed, right? People have like good amount of subscribers. In your position, you have been working with this for a couple of years now. What's the pattern you notice, like the people who make money and like the other people who don't? What's the core difference in the emails?
Yeah, I think it's a common question. It's really simple. It's like one founder pitches the hell out of their audience and the other one doesn't. They're scared to. I myself was a founder that was like, I don't know if I don't want to be all salesy. But you got to think of it. The way I think of newsletters also is like, you're kind of like it's like a buffet, right? Like when someone comes to a diner or a buffet, like you got to give them options, like show them what you have. And a ton of founders are scared to do so. They're just like kind of hide that they have a community. They hide that they have these digital products. So like make it like a storefront, make it like a menu for people to choose from. Maybe they don't exactly want the newsletter, but then send them down the path of, your YouTube content. Like there's so much you can do with email, with automation, especially on Instagram. And like, maybe we can get into that later, but like you can fully ask someone, what do you need help with? And then give them that, or say, I think this is a good suggestion for you. So again, the founders that make money from email are pitching their services, and they do it often. That's honestly, that's it. Like that's what you got to do.
Is there any metric of, okay, someone is pitching too much, almost trying to sell too much to people, or is that not a thing?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. People do go blind to even lead magnets. You're supposed to be changing lead magnets every 1 to 3 months. If they see the same visual, even if it's the same content inside the lead magnet, if as long as you're changing the thumbnail, it's going to perform better. Like I've seen that firsthand. It's like lead magnet conversions are better with different thumbnails after a month to 3 months. I think you have to be careful with it for sure, because you will burn your audience out. If they see you running promos all the time, they're just going to be like, oh, he's just kind of a sellout. I think when it makes sense, I really like Black Friday. That makes sense to me. I really like end of the year sales. I really like seasonal things. So, maybe an important holiday, something like that, making it limited as well and not lying about it. That's super important. Or a timer of some sort, like after 12 hours, 24 hours, have some urgency there. People will take action if you're serious about it and you're not, saying there's only 10 spots when there's actually 100. That stuff matters. I think it's just honestly being like ethical and like just being a good person about it. I think that's kind of the approach that I tell my founders to take when it comes to sending emails.
Something also worth mentioning, like people are not stupid. They will understand if you're trying to like, hey, there are only 2-3 spots left. You're also sending to other real human people. They understand that you're probably lying. So just telling the truth goes a very long way, because it just makes it okay. We can trust this guy. As soon as it comes out that this guy is just trying to make money from us, or is just lying to get more people, I think it's very clear to tell. And as I said, people are not stupid. People understand these things at the end of the day. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's also like, typically in the e-com space, if you want to do like 80% education, 20% selling, that's kind of the general rule of thumb in the e-com space. And I kind of take the same approach for founders. Again, 80% education, nurture, 20% selling. That's like really good rule of thumb.
You have obviously your Instagram, your YouTube, you do content, you share a bunch of tips, tricks, everything, right? Yeah. Is there something you keep private for a reason? Like, hey, I have this secret hack, this secret tip that I keep in private for a reason, or just you haven't shared?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely have like some secret sauce, right, that I don't fully share. But I'm pretty damn open as to when it comes to content. I kind of treated content for a while as almost like like school for me. I wanted it to become like content was my test or my quiz in school. I hated quizzes and tests personally. I don't know about you, but I hated them.
Yeah.
And I wanted content again to kind of be like learn something on YouTube and then educate my audience. Because what ended up happening is over 6 to 8 months of when I was posting consistently, I started learning very, very, very fast because I was actually applying what I was watching. I was applying from the books I was reading, etc. So it made things. It was honestly just I was just going to show them everything. I was going to show them everything that I was learning, honestly. So that was honestly my approach.
If you could remove all like tactics stuff, what's one small thing which you have been following in your own business, in your own daily life, that makes a very big difference for you? Like the thing that nobody wants to hear, like the truth, right? We're not trying to sell anything magical. What's the one thing you feel like, okay, this thing, even though it's boring, it makes a huge difference in my life and in your business?
Yeah. I'd probably say like criticism. I think for me, that is, when I work with all my clients, I tell them all, I want you to be hypercritical. I'm like, my feelings don't get hurt. I don't care. Like, tell me what sucks and then tell me what good looks like. I tell all my clients that, and I'm like vicious with that. Like, if they're not following that feedback formula, I won't work with them. Because what ends up happening when, if you think of Steve Jobs or someone like that, I mean, all he did was kind of like complain and like say this sucks, but it pulls out a different side of you and it pulls out higher quality stuff. So if you can just be open to the idea of taking criticism, I think even in my personal life and relationships and friendships, like it makes a huge difference because now I know what to fix, and I'm not like kind of wandering through life like thinking I'm right and my way is the best. It's like, no, tell me what sucks in my life, um, and I'll make the changes necessary. And then I become better. I start leveling up faster. I mean, ultimately, I make more money too because I'm open to criticism. So I'd probably say that has served me very, very well in my life and business as well.
I think something people forget about is like there's so many people suffering in both business, in their real life, but just not having the hard conversations they have to have with the clients. Like if a client isn't like anything, if you're doing something wrong, like just tell me, because
Mhm.
there's so many people having the wrong partner, having the wrong clients, and just can't have that conversation because they're scared.
Yeah.
So I think it's very crucial to like from the beginning say like, hey, if there's something like we actually are struggling with, please tell me. I think it goes a very long way. And just setting those clear boundaries from the beginning makes a huge difference in a business,
Yeah.
especially in like relationships and like hard talks and results and so on. So definitely something which is very important to have and a great mindset as well to be able to take feedback and like improve stuff.
Yeah. I totally agree. Totally agree.
There has to be like a core difference. Okay, I make let's say 21,000 at 16, and it's very easy to okay. I think it's very easy to lose touch of money. Like, hey, I just earned so much money for like it's so easy.
Yeah.
What's the thing you have to unlearn from now during that period from 16? Like when you just made money, it was super easy. You just sold this community. What skill or what kind of thing did you have to unlearn from yourself to actually progress from there?
Um, I think honestly, the whole reselling scene, at least the way I look at it now, it was it was trendy, you know? It was in 1 second, then it was out the other. And so I really started realizing like that's how markets shift. Like markets, completely change like overnight sometimes. So you have to be able to pivot. And that's what kind of led me down to a whole thing of Upwork, where I was like, I need to find a skill that suits me long term. And so I was like, well, where do I go? Like, what steps do I take? Because at one point I was making $300, $400 a day in class. And then the next, COVID hit and all the reselling stuff like shut down. So it like completely shattered my business. I made a bad hire. I'm like now losing money on the business. Like I got to close this thing down. I don't really want to run it. I'm busy with school. So I was like, what can I do that, I can make an impact on people's lives, but also, generate revenue for businesses. That's when I realized I think I need to find a skill. So I went on this like hiatus of like, let me just read every book, every YouTube video, just consume as much content as physically possible and just find something that interests me. And then that's kind of when I landed on copywriting, and it totally made sense and aligned with the emails that I wrote. Writing persuasively, for those of you that don't know what copywriting is, it's just writing persuasive words to sell something basically. And that was the kind of skill that I was like, this will suit me long term. I can go into the e-commerce space. I can work with business owners. I can do reactivation campaigns. Like I can do cold email campaign. Like the options are just limitless. So I think for me, it was a hard change, but I think I needed it because it led me down the path of like finding something that can suit me, like for full-time income, like paying rent and stuff, because that you can't be kind of on the fence of this whole reselling thing because the next moment it could shut down. So I'd probably say it's all about finding some sort of skill that can, make you good income and suit you long term.
And it's very easy to see on like social stuff on like YouTube, on Instagram, like, hey, this guy is living my dream life. He has everything, he has his own business. But something we don't show is like the lower point of our lives, right? We don't have, sometimes some people do, but most people don't, right? They just share like the things that other people want to see. Is there, what's kind of the lowest point you've had now while running Akari, so not like the community, but the current business? And how did you overcome that thing?
That's a good question. The lowest, and how did I overcome it? I think the lowest, honestly, was the before. I'll just speak on that because I think Akari's been pretty solid. I think for me, the lowest was before Akari. I had to find what my thing was, and I spent a lot of time, and I think I know myself pretty well. I spend a lot of time alone, kind of going on walks and things, just thinking, and I realized that like I had no like I went from again making the $300-400 a day to making nothing. So that was like really a really hard change. Because at one moment, yeah, you're like balling out, and like I get to go to these nice dinners and things, and then like I'm like, shoot, I don't know if I can make. I gotta be sure I have enough money for like groceries and rent and stuff. So it was like, holy smokes! I think that was probably one of the biggest lows for me. And then not having any sort of skill to like rely on to like make money from is another really hard thing. I finally found something. It was social media management for a little bit. It was email marketing, but I didn't love the businesses I was working with. And for a good amount of time, I can confidently say I was looking for like grocery store jobs because I was just like, I don't enjoy this. Like I would rather work at a coffee shop or a grocery store than do this, wake up every day and do this because I just didn't like the business owners. I didn't like the work I was putting out. It was worse than a job, it felt like. Um, so that was honestly probably my lowest point for sure. Was the before Akari.
I assume also like your relationship with the money has had to change a lot since 16. Obviously, you get a very bad view of how to earn money and how easy it is. And of course, how has it changed? Do you currently still focus on getting more money, or do you feel like, okay, this is much more important now than just chasing their extra revenue?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had the goal like at 5K a month, like all my expenses are paid. Anything extra is like just kind of bonus money. And so I kind of was like, let me just figure that part out first. You know, how can I make a consistent 5K a month? And now I have like peace of mind. And for me, the way I view money originally was just like, I just want more of it constantly. But I kind of wrote about this in an article, retrospective. I bought this CSGO skin a couple months ago. It was an AK-47 case hardened. And I've always wanted it as a kid. And then I realized, I mean, I played, those games last 60 minutes each. So it lasted this happiness, this high of like this money stuff lasted 120 minutes. And then I was like back down to like the normal state. And I was like, this is just, no, I don't care about how much money I make. As long as my bills are paid, that's most important. But like, what is important to me? And so I think I've spent a lot of time. I've been going to therapy. I've been going to business coaches to really identify like what my why is. Like, why am I doing all this? Why do I wake up at 5 a.m. most days and like bust my ass? And for me, I've kind of realized it's one, I'm optimizing for impact now. I want to impact people through my content, through my school community, because it's very fulfilling. I find myself talking to friends, my family, like this guy just sent me a message like my content's changed his life. Like that makes my day. It fills me up the most. But two, I would say that I just love to learn. So the more money I make, the more I get to spend on learning. So I'm now talking to like, I'm talking to a different crowd as I make more money. I'm talking to copywriters making 50K a month, agency owners that are making 17K a month. Like I get a completely different group of people that I get to speak with and learn from. So my addiction now is one, impact on people. And then two, just I'm addicted to learning. Like I want to read all the books. I want to listen to all the podcasts. I want to speak to all the, different types of people in the world because I learn from them, you know? So that's kind of honestly how my view of money has changed. It's not necessarily something I need. It's more so a vehicle for me to impact more lives and then also learn more. coaching, etc. Yeah.
For a lot of agency owners or like just founders in general, you always have to learn some new things to expand, to grow, to earn more money. At what point do you feel like, okay, I have to learn more, and how do you make sure to implement those learnings? Because it's very easy to just, a lot of people just watch YouTube, they consume content, they keep watching YouTube, they don't actually take action. How do you know, okay, I'm actually learning to grow myself or grow my business, or just learning words or just concepts that you already know about? What I'm trying to ask here is just, how do you know when enough is enough? Or like, how do you know when to take action on the things you're learning about?
Yeah, I think that comes down more so to what your North Star is. Are you clear on what outcome you're trying to get? Like identify first, like where you're trying to go. And that should be your North Star you're operating at. And there's going to be like subcategories to achieving that North Star, right? Maybe it's a specific KPI. Maybe it's like figuring out how to outreach properly. And you're just kind of going to break down into these different subcategories of like how to achieve that North Star. So if you want to make $10,000 a month, there's only a handful of things you're supposed to do every day. So your time, at least the way I look at it, your time should be spent just working on those subcategories and finding the correct inputs that generate, the 10K a month output. Honestly, in that, you can watch like 7 YouTube videos and just hammer whatever they're telling you. So I think at that point, like that's all you really need to do is like find your North Star and then figure out how you're going to get there. So I think it's more so the planning that's important. And if you plan well, you don't have to spend time consuming all this content, wasting time, or thinking you're making progress when you're really not. There's tons of distractions out there, but like what gets you a client? It's outreach, or there's only so many things you got to do to achieve a goal. So like focus on learning that stuff and then take action. And again, that's like 7 to 10 YouTube videos max. And you're like somewhat of maybe not an expert, but you're like an intermediate. You understand the fundamentals. Like that's all you got to do. So that's kind of how I view, chasing something like that or not over educating.
Now, if someone has an audience of, let's say, 10K subscribers, 20K subscribers, like 30, like whatever, they have never sent a newsletter. They're a complete beginner, like 0 subscribers. What's the exact framework, let's say a 30-day plan of how they can succeed with a newsletters from like the beginning with an audience they already have?
Yeah. If you want a 30-day plan of like how to succeed with a newsletter. So here's what I would do. First, don't guess. Like, don't think you know what people want. Ask them. Utilize Instagram stories. Send them an email. Like probably the first thing we do when I work with clients is I send them a very personal email. First name, like, hey, first name. What do you want to learn currently? What are you stuck on? What are you struggling with? And the feedback from that alone will kind of give you a couple different buckets. You'll see like usually there's 3 to 5 things that repeat over and over and over again of what people in your audiences are struggling with. Based on that, I would then structure your newsletter tailored to each objection or each problem people have. After that, I would figure out a good way to get traffic for your newsletter. You can do organic. I'd focus on 2 channels, LinkedIn and Instagram's probably the best. If you have time, do YouTube as well. After that, I mean, it's really as simple as staying consistent, publish a newsletter every week, at the same time. And I mean, you're good to go. Like the newsletter stuff doesn't take off immediately. It's like, it's a year of posting, but after a year of posting, like it's not uncommon for someone to be at 10,000 subscribers on their newsletter. I really think it's that. And then I think if you're struggling with what to post as for content, like find stuff that's already working. Don't reinvent the wheel and just kind of, use that as a framework, but obviously change the copy and kind of use your own, just use your own stuff, use your own copy.
And what other metrics should you just ignore?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think conversion rates on landing pages is probably the most important. how many people are converting on your lead magnets and how many people are converting on your newsletter landing page. If you can get those to like 50 to 60%, you're going to make a shitload of money because like it's just one of the North Stars that I optimize for. Because obviously it means you get bigger lists. And what happens with newsletters is it becomes a flywheel. Once you start getting more subscribers, you can start running paid ads and you start generating revenue from the newsletter, and it kind of keeps on growing. And there comes a point where you're making $1,000 to $2,000 from a newsletter, and you just reinvest that money and keep growing it over and over and over. So focus on lead magnet conversions or landing page conversions first. I do think click-through rate is very important as well, because it kind of shows you like, are people interested in what you're sending? I think open rate's kind of vanity personally. You got to be careful, especially with, there's like some domain providers kind of just will open emails for you, and that counts as like an open. So it's not a true open rate. So you got to be careful with that. Click-through rate, conversion rate, and I think cost per subscriber would be the third one. How much are you making? How much money are you squeezing out of a subscriber? Those are probably my top three.
And then what's the thing that you worked, let's say, last year in 2025 and 2024 that's no longer so relevant? And what do you think is like that should be the focus for 2026 when it comes to newsletters? That's the thing that I think is going to explode.
As far as like a format, or just as far as like marketing goes, like anything specific?
Yeah, I mean, just like founders being more honest or share anything specific. Is there anything like, hey, this market is, or this thing you should focus on when writing newsletters in this year?
I think more founders just need to speak with their audience. Like I would probably go to that point because it kind of carries over everything else. Like then you become more vulnerable. Then you start providing more value. Like you got to be able to find out what people want. Because again, markets shift and people's desires and situations change. And also over time, if you're doing a good job at a newsletter, in 6 months and 3 to 6 months, they're going to want different things. They're going to be more intermediate stage. So maybe that's a good time to add a premium newsletter, which is monthly subscription. People do that all the time. So I'd really say and put a pin on this is like, you have to understand what your audience is complaining about on a day-to-day basis. And you do that by speaking to them, sending emails to them individually, looking at comments on Instagram, on Twitter, etc. That's where I think the focus should be moving into 2026.
What's the best purchase you have done under, let's say, $500 that has made like the biggest impact to you? I think I know the answer because it's usually the same answer for everyone, but I would love to know, like, if someone now has a limited budget, because of course not everyone is starting with endless of money. Let's say you have $500. How would you invest that money now, starting over the whole thing?
So I think I have a couple different answers, honestly, I want to say, but I would probably just speak to an expert. I would just pay somebody who's really damn good at a skill that I want to learn, and get the full run. I'd have a list of like 30, 40, 50 questions and just record the whole thing, have Fathom take notes, and I would just go on Upwork and pay some expert. Honestly, I might even do the whole amount, to be honest. If I could find someone that's really damn good, shit, why not?
I want to have some just quick fire questions, so don't overthink. Just say like the first thing that comes to mind. What's one belief you had 3 years ago that you have completely changed now?
I think people don't want what I'm selling.
What newsletters did you subscribe to? Of course, not your own. And why do you read every email?
Big Desk Energy is a really good one. He's the founder of Beehive. It's all about founders. It's all about habits. I love that one. Matthew McConaughey, actually why I subscribe to it. I just love the founder and I love the information he provides. Matthew McConaughey's got a really good newsletter as well. He just kind of talks about life, his books, his podcasts he promotes. It's pretty awesome. I love Matthew McConaughey. So that's more so just I'm interested in what he's up to. I think Nick's kind of blog / newsletter is awesome. He talks about bottlenecks. He talks about where he's taking his business, how he views the automation space, the market of automation. And it's really cool getting insights from like experts in different fields. And I think Nick's one of those experts that I just find myself like loving to read. And then also my dad, like he loves Nick. My dad loves Nick. I showed him some YouTube videos in his newsletter, and my dad is like, "Did you read Nick's newsletter?" And I'm like, "Dad, like, when did it release? Like, how do you?" He's like, "I read it this morning. It came out like at 5 a.m." And I'm like, reading it. I'm like, and that just kind of goes to show you, like, like even my dad, he's like 50 something, 52, 53. He's like, found himself invested in this guy that's, 20 years younger than him. So it's like, I'd probably say those three that are just awesome for me. Yeah, I'd probably say those. The Rundown as well is an AI newsletter, and I just kind of get tons of ideas for my own business from there. So it beats scrolling TikTok or YouTube. I'll just be honest. Reading newsletters is way better.
Next quick fire. If Akari Social disappeared tomorrow, what would you build next if you couldn't start the newsletters?
Ghostwriting. I'm going to stay in the writing space. I'm going to ghostwrite. Same idea. I could probably script write for some content creator. I could script write or ghostwrite LinkedIn content. I think as a content creator, as someone who posts content, I completely understand the space. I know what people struggle with. I could speak their language, and I know I could get them results. And I think I could charge 5-6K per client, easy.
If you could send one message to the 16-year-old Tre, what would you say?
What you get, what you put in is what you get out. I'd say that. What you put in is what you get out, for sure.
I think that's a great way to end it. What you put is what you get out. I think it's very clear that the more work you actually want to do, and the more time you're willing to actually learn and expand, the more you get out. And Tre, if they want to learn more from you, where can they find you, and what would you want to say?
Yeah, it's Tre Hart on all platforms, or Dank Tre. If you want to check out my YouTube channel, my other YouTube channel, I'd say just find that skill that you love to do, and you wake up excited to do. It took me 8 months to find what that thing was, so don't rush it. It's all part of the journey. And send Upwork proposals. Yeah.
So everyone listening, of course, thank you for having. Pleasure to have you, of course.
Yeah.
The reason you succeeded, of course, was because you took action. You decided, okay, I'm no longer just going to consume. I want to do this thing. I want to just actually start executing for once. And I think that what kind of makes you what has happened today. You have a successful newsletter. You know how to write. And my thought of the day was just, okay, for everyone listening, take one concept you want to learn and actually execute it.
Yeah.
Tre, thank you for being here. It was amazing.
Thanks, Max. It was a pleasure.